You're listening to the Charm City Birdwatch podcast after I guess you could say not a big championship football Sunday with two blowouts occurring as it's been throughout the playoffs. We find ourselves 2 weeks away from Super Bowl 51, and we now know who's going to be in it. So with that being said, I'm your host, Jake McDonald, and joining me on the line are our two experts, NFL experts, as well as all things baseball and Terps. Now, all that coverage on CharmCityBirdwatch.com. Nolan McGraw and Tyler Fees are here to break it all down with me. You can follow them on Twitter at Nolan_MCG and at Tyler_Feeser. And, of course, you can find me on Twitter at JMcDonald95. And, of course, Charm City Birdwatch at CharmCityBWW on Twitter. With that being said, the first week of the semester being kicked in, with myself being back in Bloomsburg and Nolan being back at Shippensburg for the second semester of our junior year, and then Tyler doing his thing down in Hunt Valley just as he's been doing for the past 3 years ever since he graduated here from Bloomsburg, which will be 2 years ago coming up in May. So with that being said, new surroundings for us this week, first day of class for all the schools really involved in the state schools here in Pennsylvania. But with that being said, we're here to break down the two games, the AFC and NFC championship games that occurred yesterday, with the Falcons defeating the Packers 44-21, and then the Patriots defeating the Steelers 36-17. So we're going to break down these two games, what we took away from them, before we preview Super Bowl 51 and what we think is going to come out of that. So, Nolan, I'll go to you first. The first one, the first game, the 44-21 win, Falcons over Packers, with Matt Ryan just absolutely dominating, just as he has been all season, throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Falcons came out scoring 24 points at halftime. It was 24-0. Atlanta and Green Bay, the lack of talent really showed. Of course, Jordy Nelson played, but not saying the Packers are bad, but certainly the lack of dynamic weapons they had. Of course, they lost Ty Montgomery early in the game. The running game wasn't the same. They had the big fumble down in the Falcons' red zone. So really, we sort of saw how far apart these two teams were, and Atlanta clearly, after defeating Seattle and now Green Bay, going to the first Super Bowl since '99. So, I think it's safe to say that, after this week, it'll be Patriots fans and then the rest of the, United States rooting for the Falcons. What'd you think about this game after watching it?
Yeah, you're right about that. It is the Falcons are going to have a larger fan base for the Super Bowl. But, this one, both games were, I guess, a disappointment, like you said. And I wanted to say that after our predictions earlier in the week, I was very wrong about what actually happened. I think we might have gotten a little caught up in the Aaron Rodgers stuff and perhaps ignored what Atlanta was doing and how talented they were last week. Because, Green Bay got embarrassed here this week. Like you said, they're not a bad team. They didn't show up, though, this week, and they definitely got spanked. So Atlanta is looking like what we thought, what we were saying about Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay last week. Like, it's hard to bet against them. I think that Atlanta was the team that we've been sleeping on for a little bit too long now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because Atlanta hasn't really... they made the NFC Championship 4 years ago when they lost to San Francisco, but I don't know if it's been that they're, from a little bit of a smaller market or whatever, but really they've haven't been talked about, barely at all, getting the second seed in the NFC, and really, we saw the lack of defense the Packers had, and not saying that Atlanta has a good defense, their defense isn't very good either, but they just, they were able to get after Rodgers, limited the run game as much as they could. The Packers made mistakes, and I was going to say we all picked I think out of all of us, Tyler was the only one that actually picked the game right. He picked the Falcons to beat the Packers, while me and Nolan both went 0-2 on the weekend. So Tyler, I guess you weren't really shocked. I know you were expecting it. We were all expecting it to be a little bit closer, but certainly you were on the right end of the stick with picking the Falcons over the Packers here.
Yeah, like you said, I was definitely expecting it to be a lot closer. I think I picked it to be a 3-point game, and I was expecting it to come down right down to the wire. But my decision came down to that was no question, no matter what no matter what happened with the outcome, that was going to be the last game played in the Georgia Dome. And I just thought the organization, the fans, they did not want to close that stadium with a loss. And I thought, I hate using injuries as an excuse, but I thought the injuries mounting up for Green Bay, I thought were going to be a lot to overcome. The amount of offensive firepower that Atlanta showed yesterday it's just outrageously good. If you take out Julio Jones, well, then they're just going to beat you with Sanu or Coleman or Freeman or one of the tight ends or Taylor Gabriel. If you take out their two running backs, well, then they're just going to beat you with Julio or another one of their receivers. It's just if the Patriots can slow down this offense and hold them to under 30 points, I will be very, very impressed. But like you guys said it great. Green Bay, I mean, Green Bay just didn't play all that well. Hypothetically, they could have shown up and played a great game. I still don't think that they would have won. They could have played just an absolute perfect game on offense, and I still don't think it would have been enough just because of their defense is such a liability. Julio just had an outstanding game. Matt Ryan just looks, like Nolan said, Matt Ryan looks even better than Aaron Rodgers did the previous week. So I'm really looking forward to the Super Bowl and seeing how he does against Bill Belichick and that Patriots defense. So he definitely looks like the MVP, though. I know the voters aren't supposed to take into the playoffs into account, but you look at his regular season stats and you look at his postseason, and he definitely solidified his MVP status, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's definitely been the big thing for him before this season was how much he was able to get it done in big games, certainly coming up, not just in the pros, but in college also. He has never been that big of a game-time quarterback, but really flipped the script with what he did over these past two games, and it just goes to show he's got a great offense around him, but he's certainly been able to make the throws, make the plays, and the reason why they're in the Super Bowl was hands down. Big reason is Matt Ryan, and I did hear rumors that he could be in for a big contract after the season that would make him the richest quarterback in the league. But moving on to the AFC Championship, another lopsided one here is the Patriots defeated the Steelers 36-17. The Steelers had a bunch going on, with the whole Antonio Brown Facebook Live rumblings, and then, the flu gets passed around the team last week, and then the Patriots fan sets off the fire alarm at the team hotel at 3 in the morning. They lose Bell a couple plays into the game, so that, as big of a player as Le'Veon Bell was, I do think his not having him on the field certainly hurt Pittsburgh, not only because of what he can do as a runner, but what he does receiving the ball too. And D'Angelo Williams, you got to give him credit for being a great backup running back, but certainly not the dynamic or caliber of player that Le'Veon Bell is. So that actually hurt them as well. But at halftime it was 17-9 New England, and they didn't stop there. They scored 16 points in the third quarter and held Pittsburgh to 8 points in the second half. And of course, holding them to just 9 points in the first half as well. Nolan, I'll go to you again first here. I'll start with you. We all picked the Steelers to win this game. It's certainly not how this one played out. Now we looked, we're on the outside looking at Belichick and Brady as a pair heading to their 7th Super Bowl overall. I think calling the Patriots a dynasty might be undercutting it a little bit. I think they're more than that. And certainly we're going to see if they're going to be able to get it done in 2 weeks, just 2 years after they won their last Super Bowl after not being champions for about a decade. So, Patriots Super Bowl again. We've seen it a bunch of times, but certainly they were the clear-cut favorite in the AFC. They got home field advantage, locked up the number 1 seed, and got the job done. And now they're on their way to Houston.
Yep. I know what was one of the talking points coming into this week was who have the Patriots played up until this week, and I think Tyler brought it up last week, and I agreed that they really hadn't played anybody minus, Seattle in the regular season. I might be forgetting somebody. But they didn't play any quarterbacks or teams that were really close to their level. And they did this week, and they showed up, and they showed that they aren't they didn't just get here on a soft schedule. They are that good. Tom Brady is that good. He still is that good. So, that was one of the big takeaways for me. Other than that, like you said, the Bell injury was definitely huge. Obviously it wasn't the reason they lost, but, when you lose them that early in a game, you don't plan for that. If they knew going into this game that they weren't going to have him, they probably would have been better off. But when you lose them on like that first or second drive, it's just, you got to change your game plan, like in the middle of the game. And that's just very hard to do, especially in the playoffs. So, obviously I think we would have liked both of these games to be more exciting, but it didn't work out that way. And I guess you can't argue, though, that the two best teams are going to the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, I basically completely agree with what Nolan said. Like I said last week, up until this week, outside of Seattle, New England really hadn't played anybody that was really, I would say, top in the top third of the league. And they had lost to Seattle, but I would definitely put Pittsburgh in that top third. And to be honest, they just didn't beat them. They demoralized them. They just completely demolished them. I didn't think it was really all that close. Now, I will say, the Bell injury, like Nolan said, it didn't change the outcome of the game. But had Bell stayed healthy, the score would have been closer. Like you had said, Jake, as well. When you lose Bell, you lose more than just his rushing ability. You lose a lot in the passing game as well. So the score definitely would have been closer. I still don't think that they would have won because the Patriots just played really, really well last night. And Pittsburgh, they weren't really firing on all cylinders. They didn't play terribly, in my opinion, especially D'Angelo Williams. He played well in relief. But like Nolan said, losing him mid-game, that's really tough, especially in a playoff game against definitely a top two team in the league. But all in all, Pittsburgh played as well as they could, and they had a pretty good season. So, but ultimately, you did get the two best teams in the Super Bowl, and ultimately, it should be. Now, we've said this multiple times over the past couple weeks in the playoffs, but it should be a really good game.
So we're going to break down the Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks from Houston, Texas. One little tidbit about the Steelers I just saw on through Instagram, I think for the NFL's account, that James Harrison announced that he's going to come back for another season at 39 years old. So certainly big news, I guess you could say, there from what he's been able to do at his age, but can't say I'm surprised to see that. Now, moving on to Super Bowl 51 in 2 weeks at Houston, it's going to be the Patriots taking on the Falcons. Of course, the Patriots, the number 1 seed out of the AFC, and the Falcons, the number 2 seed, which they got to have the home field championship game after the Cowboys squandered their home field advantage, and they got to close out the history in the Georgia Dome with a win. So certainly, I think for me, I'm interested to see how the Falcons play. It's their first Super Bowl since 1999. Of course, that game was a loss. They lost that game. Then they haven't ever won a Super Bowl in franchise history. Meanwhile, you have the Patriots coming into their 7th Super Bowl under the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era, and of course, 4-time champions looking for a 5th ring. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Falcons come out, specifically when you talk about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick having all their experience in Super Bowls and in big-time games. And really, this is really only the 2nd or 3rd time in Matt Ryan's career that he's, this will be his first Super Bowl. But then you have the coaching staff with the Falcons, with Dan Quinn, who, of course, won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks and was the coach of the defensive coordinator of the Seahawks when they lost to the Patriots 2 years ago. So I think, that fact, he'll be looking out for some revenge after losing that game, especially as close as it was, even though it really actually wasn't his fault that the Seahawks lost 2 years ago because he was the defensive coordinator. He didn't make that play call on the goal line where it was picked off. But yeah, I think he'll be out for blood. But again, I'll be, as much as we talk about Matty Ice being Matty Ice this year, we will see how clutch he is in 2 weeks. So I guess, Tyler, I'll flip the script and go to you first. How do you feel about Super Bowl 51 coming up in 2 weeks in Houston? What are you most looking forward to watching the game? And then not a pick, but just some analysis with the two teams coming in.
I think you hit on two key points there. I'm really looking forward to seeing how much pressure, on top of what you had mentioned, Jake. I'm looking forward to see how much pressure Dwight Freeney and Vic Beasley can get on Tom Brady. Ultimately, you watched last night's game, and Pittsburgh didn't get a whole lot of pressure on Tom Brady. And that obviously resulted in Brady having more time to throw and him having more success. Now, you look back to last week against Houston, and Houston got more pressure on him, particularly in the first half, and Brady really struggled. And obviously, that's been the recipe for success against Brady in his entire career. If you get pressure on him, you can have success against him. And obviously, Dwight Freeney has had many games against him in his career. You obviously mentioned Dan Quinn having a couple games against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in his coaching career as well. So you have to expect that they're going to figure some things out to be able to get some pressure on Brady. And I think that if they can do that, that they will have some success and really upset and what's the word I'm looking for here? Get under Brady's skin and confuse him and really make him think and possibly force some turnovers here. So I also think that Belichick will definitely throw everything at Matt Ryan, especially in the first half, because of, like you said, his inexperience. But I ultimately think that he will settle down because of all the weapons that he has. I know Kyle Shanahan will put Matt Ryan in situations to succeed. They're not going to do anything to jeopardize any early turnovers or anything. They're not going to go for the big shots early. They're going to put him in easy situations to build his confidence early. And that's going to be the key. Obviously, the keys for Brady is protecting him, and just once you get his confidence going, it's going to be tough to rattle him. So I think you combine those things with what you said, Jake. Those are the keys to the game.
Yeah, certainly it'll be interesting to see how much pressure the Falcons are able to get on Brady. I will say, though, with the Falcons, they had a little bit of an easy week this past week with two of the Packers starting offensive linemen going down with injuries, and of course they lost Montgomery as well. The Patriots, how about their guy Chris Hogan, who they was a journeyman. Originally I think he was undrafted, spent some time with like the 49ers and the Dolphins before going to the Bills, and then he comes over to the Patriots, and last night put up 9 receptions for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just the way that it really is amazing. Give Brady and Belichick all the credit in the world, just the way they've been able to bring in guys like Wes Welker, guys like Edelman. There are countless others that were either journeymen, low draft picks, just not the prototypical playmakers, and they've been able to bring them in, and they've all had great careers. So it certainly is a tribute to how great they are at capitalizing on those opportunities. So Nolan, I'll go to you next. What do you think of the two matchups here, particularly the Patriots offense going up against the Falcons defense, and then Matt Ryan taking on a Patriots defense that didn't rank at the top of the league in terms of yards given up, but didn't give up a lot of points this year. And a big part of that could be because they were up by so much, but a big chunk of the season. So how do you feel about Super Bowl 51 coming up?
A couple of things. The first is it's kind of funny. I think Tyler said it a little bit ago that we keep expecting these good matchups and everything, and we never really get them, and it's been disappointing. But I think this one is finally. This is definitely going to be a good matchup. I hope it is. If it's not, I'm going to be really, really disappointed. But yeah, hopefully it is good. The second thing is for the Patriots defense. Keep hearing every week, every game from the commentators, hearing how the Patriots defense is able to take their opposition's best player out of the equation. So they said that they're able to take out Antonio Brown last week, or they're able to shut down the best player that they're taking on And I don't know if that's going to be enough this week because, like we mentioned earlier, this Atlanta offense just has so many weapons that if you take out one player, it doesn't matter. There's 3-4 more guys that can beat you. So I keep hearing that about the New England defense, and I don't think that's going to be able to help them this week. But yeah, this is definitely, to me, looks more like a shootout. If Atlanta their defense isn't able to stop Brady, they definitely have the offense to, make it a shootout. So we'll see. But yeah, it looks like a high-scoring game just right now.
Of course, you can check all of our coverage of the Super Bowl 51 coming up next week. No article this week. The article with the picks will be coming out next week on Super Bowl 51. But then again, with our preview tonight, there will not be an actual preview podcast next week. But certainly probably still one of the works of the Super Bowl. Pending it be a good game, expect something the night after or 2 nights after with a little recap of that. So, of course, with things kind of be on the down low in the NFL, up until the Super Bowl. Of course, check out CharmCityBirdwatch.com for more coverage on all things Ravens, Orioles, Terps, you name it, anything Baltimore, it's up there. Nolan's been great with the Terps coverage. Of course, Tyler, a couple weeks ago put up an article about possible cap casualties for the Ravens coming up this offseason. And, of course, I was all over the Mark Trumbo signing when the Orioles bringing him back for a 3-year deal. Covered that last week. And also the announced official retirement of Zach Orr due to a back injury, which was very unexpected. That's all up on the website now. Be sure to follow us again on social media. Once again, I'm Jay McDonald95 on Twitter. Our 2 experts joining me this evening, Nolan McGraw at Nolan_MCG and Tyler at Tyler_Feezer. And, of course, you can check us out on social media as Charm City Birdwatch by going to either Facebook.com/CharmCityBirdwatch, CharmCityBW on Twitter, or Charm City Birdwatch on Instagram. A lot of Charm City Birdwatch is being thrown around right now, but, of course, check us out on our website, which, of course, all of this is located in the description box or on our SoundCloud profile. It's all up there. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, follow us personally, and, the more followers we have, the more just the bigger brand we are able to build here through Charm City Birdwatch. So for Tyler and Nolan, once again, I'm Jake McDonald, and thank you again for tuning into this edition of the podcast, and enjoy the Super Bowl up to 2 weeks, and be sure to be on the lookout for that preview article coming up mid next week.